You can be surrounded by people who genuinely like you and still feel a cold, specific emptiness that none of them can reach. Neville Goddard spent decades explaining why, and his answer is not the comforting one you have been handed 100 times. The comforting story says you simply have not met the right people yet. It says the loneliness is a shortage, a gap in your surroundings, a head count that has not been filled. So you gather more faces, you fill the calendar, you accept the invitation, you sit in the loud room, and the emptiness sits down right beside you, wearing a new outfit. Something in you already suspects the story is wrong. You have tested it. You have been in the crowd and felt further from everyone than you did alone in your car. That gap between what you were promised and what you felt is the crack this whole video is going to pry open. Because here is the claim Neville built his teaching around. If everyone you perceive is your own consciousness turned outward, then no face in that room is an outside source that could ever fill you. A reflection cannot feed the one casting it. The loneliness was never in the room at all. By the end of this, you will understand the emptiness as something structural instead of something wrong with you, not a defect in you, a feature of the state you're looking from. And once you see that, the exit stops being other people and becomes the one lever you have actually been holding the entire time.
Watch what you actually do when the loneliness hits. You reach outward. You picture the person, the group, the belonging that would finally close the distance. The instinct is arithmetic. Add enough people and the emptiness cancels out. But run the numbers honestly across your own life. Every time the room filled, the feeling stayed. You added the friends, the relationship, the community you were sure would do it. The emptiness took the addition and gave you nothing back. The math simply refuses to work, and it refuses every single time. Most people conclude they are just adding the wrong people, wrong friends, wrong partner, wrong city. So they try again with a fresh set of faces and get the identical result, a little more tired each round. Neville would tell you the equation is broken at the root, not in the variables. You are trying to solve an inner state with an outer quantity. It is like trying to warm a room by painting fire on the wall. The picture can be perfect and the room stays cold because the picture was never a source of heat. Here is the uncomfortable turn. If more people genuinely fixed this, one of your crowded rooms would have fixed it already. You have had enough of them. The fact that the ache survived every single one is not bad luck. It is data. It is telling you plainly that you have been pulling a lever that was never connected to the thing you wanted to move. So what is the lever actually connected to? To answer that, we have to look at the strangest, most disorienting idea Neville ever taught.
Neville had a phrase for it, and he never softened it. Everyone is you pushed out. In the teaching, this is often shortened to EIYPO, and it means exactly what the words say. Every person you encounter is your own state of consciousness projected into a human shape and handed back to you. Sit with how strange that is. The stranger on the train, the friend who cancels, the partner who cannot reach you. Neville taught that none of them are independent supplies of anything. They are the outer expression of what you are carrying inwardly, cast onto the screen of the world and returned to you as a face. In The Law and the Promise, published in 1961, Neville filled page after page with accounts of the outer world reshaping only after the inner state changed first, never the other way round. The people did not move and then the person felt different. The person shifted inwardly and the cast of characters reorganized to match. Now apply that to loneliness and feel the floor tilt. If everyone around you is you pushed out, then a lonely state does not meet people who could relieve it. It meets its own reflection in every direction. You walk into the room carrying emptiness, and the room hands emptiness back to you in a dozen faces, a dozen glances, a dozen half-conversations. This is the nerve of it. The loneliness is not a shortage of people, it is the state you are looking from. And the state comes with you through every door, so it greets you in every one on the other side. Take a breath here, because most people meet this idea and immediately hear an accusation. They hear, "So it is all my fault." That is not what Neville is saying, and the difference between those two readings is the whole rest of this video. Let me be precise about the word Neville leaned on constantly. State. A state is the inner position you occupy, the tone of self you are being at any given moment, and you always occupy one, whether you chose it on purpose or fell into it by habit. Think of it as the room you have been standing in for years without noticing the walls. From inside a state, the whole world takes on its color. Stand in a state of lack, and abundance itself looks suspicious. Stand in a state of loneliness, and even affection arrives already filtered through the certainty that it will not be enough. This is why the warm friend still leaves you cold. The affection is real. It reaches the edge of your state and cannot cross it, because your state has already decided what everything means before it arrives. You are not receiving people, you are receiving your own state projected onto people. In Feeling is the Secret from 1944, Neville put the mechanism plainly. Feeling is the creative ground. Whatever you feel yourself to be, you reproduce in your world. A state of emptiness is not a passive absence waiting to be filled. It is an active cause, quietly reproducing its own likeness in every experience it touches. Read that again with your own life in mind. The emptiness has not been sitting there hoping someone will notice. It has been working all this time, casting a world in its own image. Every unfulfilling encounter was not a failure to fix it. It was the state doing precisely what a state does. Which means the question was never, who can fill this? The question is, what state am I looking from, and can it be changed? Neville's entire answer is that it can, and that changing it is the only work that was ever real. Here is where the teaching stops feeling like a punch and starts feeling like a release. If everyone is you pushed out, then the loneliness is not proof that something is broken in you as a person. Notice the two stories you have probably been telling yourself. One says, "I am unlovable." The other says, "I am too much for people." Both name a defect in you, and both are heavy to carry. And Neville's law, strangely, makes both of them impossible. Because if the outer world is a projection of a state, then the emptiness is not evidence about your worth, it is evidence about your vantage point. You are not defective, you are projecting from a state that has emptiness built into it the way a projector throws whatever slide is loaded without any opinion about the slide. Feel the weight come off. You were never too much, you were never not enough. You were looking through a state, and the state was doing the only thing it knows how to do, which is to reproduce itself in everything you see. This is the half of the teaching people miss when they first hear everyone is you pushed out. They hear blame. It sounds like the universe pointing a finger. But blame is backward. Blame keeps the cause outside you, in your flaws, in your history, in what people did. Neville is doing the opposite. He is handing the cause back to the one place you can actually reach it, which is the state itself. You cannot renovate a self you are busy condemning. So set the verdict down. The loneliness is not a sentence about who you are. It is a description of where you have been standing. If this is landing, take a second and leave one line in the comments. Name the state you have been looking from lately. Not the story about people, just the inner tone. Naming it is the first place the change gets a foothold. Let me slow down on the exact mechanism, because this is where the teaching earns its strangeness. How does an inner state become a room full of people who leave you empty? Neville's answer runs through The Power of Awareness from 1952. Consciousness, he taught, is the one and only reality, not one cause among many, the single cause out of which the entire outer world is spun. He wrote that man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Sit with that word delusion. The belief that the people around you are separate causes, capable of adding to you or subtracting from you on their own, is the exact belief Neville calls the central mistake. They are not causes. They are effects. They are the visible shape your consciousness is taking right now. So the room hands your state back to you the way a mirror hands back a face. Not out of cruelty, not as a test. It is simply what a reflection does. You bring a lonely self into the room, and the room can only show you a lonely world, because the room is drawing its content from you. This is why the same emptiness keeps finding you in new places with new people under new circumstances. You changed the mirror, you did not change the face. And a new mirror shows the same face with perfect, tireless honesty every time. There is something almost merciful hidden in that. If the world only ever reflects your state, then the world is also completely responsive. The moment the state genuinely changes, the reflection has no choice. It cannot keep showing you the old face once you are no longer wearing it. That responsiveness is the door, and next we walk through it. Before the door, a warning, because this is where people hurt themselves with the teaching. They hear "change your state," and they immediately start acting. They walk into the next room performing wholeness. Bigger smile, louder laugh, a story about how wonderful everything is. On the surface, it looks like assuming a new state. Underneath, nothing has moved. The performance is a costume worn over the same emptiness, and the state under the costume is what gets projected, not the costume. Neville was exact about this, and it is easy to miss. The change he asks for is not behavioral. It is a change in what you feel yourself to be. You can perform confidence for hours and still be underneath the same lonely self, and it is that self the room reads and reflects. The world responds to the state, never to the act laid over it. This is why the fake it advice so often collapses into exhaustion. You are running two things at once, an outer performance and an inner truth that contradicts it, and the inner one always wins the projection. You end the night more depleted and more alone, because now you have proof that even the effort did not work. There is a subtler trap, too. Some people flip the teaching into a weapon against themselves. If everyone is me pushed out, they think, then every cold person is my fault. Every distant friend is my failure. That is the performance turned inward, and it is just as false. It keeps you frozen in the verdict instead of moving to the state. The real work is quieter than any performance and gentler than any verdict. It happens in a place Neville pointed to again and again, a place you pass through every single night without noticing, and that is where we go now.
Neville taught that states are not changed by effort in the daylight. They are changed in the drowsy threshold between waking and sleep, a state he called sats, meaning the state akin to sleep. In sats, the noise of the daytime mind quiets. The constant defending, explaining, and performing goes still. What remains is the bare feeling of self, and that feeling is exactly the thing Neville says you can re-impress. This is the threshold where the subconscious is receptive to conscious impression, where a new self can actually be assumed rather than argued for. Here is how it meets loneliness directly. As you lie there tonight, on the edge of sleep, you do not stage a room full of admirers. You do not throw a party in your head. You assume, inwardly, the simple feeling of already being met, already accompanied, already full before a single face has appeared to justify it. Feel the difference between that and the performance. There is no audience here, no one to convince. You are not acting full in front of people. You are being full in the one place the projection actually originates, in the state itself, in the dark, with no one watching. Neville called this living in the end. You occupy the feeling of the fulfilled wish now, tonight, as though it were already so. Not the feeling of wanting company, the feeling of already having it, which is a completely different inner tone, and it is that tone the world will be compelled to reflect. You do this not once in a burst, but as a returning. Each night you come back to the feeling of the accompanied self until it stops being a visit and becomes the room you live in. And when that self becomes natural, the outer cast has no choice but to rearrange around it.
Now, the honest part, the part most teachers skip because it does not sell. When you begin to assume the new state, the outer world does not change at 9 the next morning. There is a gap, and the gap is where almost everyone quits. You will assume the feeling of being accompanied, and then you awake into the same apartment, the same silence, the same phone that does not ring. And a voice will say, "See, nothing changed. You were fooling yourself." That voice is the old state defending its territory, and it is loudest right before it loses. Neville was clear about how you cross this gap. You remain faithful to the state assumed, regardless of what your senses report. The senses are showing you the old reflection, the world cast by the self you are leaving. Of course, they still show the old world. The slide has changed, but the light takes a moment to catch up. Think of it like the wake behind a boat that is already turned. For a while, the wake still points the old direction. The turn is real. It has already happened at the helm, but the trailing evidence has not caught up yet. If you judge the turn by the wake, you steer straight back into the old heading. So the discipline is simple and it is hard. You do not check the room for proof every hour. You hold the assumed state as the reality and let the senses come last. In Neville's order of things, the inner state is the cause and the outer world is only ever the report that arrives afterward. If this way of seeing is reaching you, consider subscribing. There is a lot more of this work here, and it tends to land deeper the second and third time through. So picture it working, not as fantasy, but as the mechanism finally running in the right direction. You have held the feeling of the accompanied self, night after night, past the gap, past the doubting voice. What actually changes? First, the inner tone shifts, and it shifts before anything outer confirms it. You notice you can be alone without the alarm going off. The silence stops feeling like an accusation. That alone is enormous because the loneliness was never the solitude. It was the state that made solitude mean abandonment. Then the outer world begins to move, and it rarely arrives the way you scripted it. An old friend surfaces, a conversation goes somewhere real for the first time, a room you have sat in 100 times feels different, and the difference is not that the people changed, it is that you are no longer casting emptiness onto them, so you can finally meet who was there all along. This is the quiet proof of everyone is you pushed out. You did not go collect better people. The same world, drawn from a fuller self, simply shows a fuller face. The cast reorganizes around the self you became, exactly as Neville described across the pages of the Law and the Promise. And notice what you did not do. You did not withdraw into isolation and call it peace. You did not launch a frantic search for your people. You changed the state and let the world of faces reorganize around the new self. That is the whole of it, and it is far less lonely than either of the extremes. Come back to that crowded room from the beginning, the one where you felt furthest from everyone. You understand it differently now. The emptiness in that room was not a message about the people. It was the state you carried in, pushed out into their faces, and handed back. Which means the search was always aimed at the wrong horizon. You were scanning the room for the person who would end it, when the only thing that could ever end it was a change in the one looking. Neville said it as plainly as it can be said. Change your conception of yourself, and you change the world in which you live. This is not a smaller answer than finding your people. It is a larger one. Finding people leaves you at the mercy of who shows up. Changing the state you look from puts the cause back in your own hands. It puts it in the one place you can always reach. Tonight, on the edge of sleep, with no one else required to cooperate. The loneliness told you that you were missing something out there. The teaching answers that what was missing was never a person. What was missing was you, standing in a fuller state, casting a fuller world. The room was always you pushed out, and a room that is you can be changed by you. So here's the closing question, and I would genuinely like your answer below. What state are you choosing to look from tonight? Say it in the comments in your own words. And if you want more of this work, subscribe and we will keep going.